I don't know if anybody knows, but it's cold in Vegas. And I don't know what it's like in Orlando, but my next guest, I know he does. And I can't tell you how honored I am to talk to this guy, this man, this mentor, this friend, a brother from the Bagram days, Mr. Rodney Barner, United States Air Force retired, recent graduate, but I won't say too much because I know he's here and listening. Rodney, you there, brother?
Hey, man, how you doing today?
I'm all right.
Right here.
Oh, man, I tell you what, I missed that voice of yours, man.
Hey, man, good to hear from you too, bro. Good to hear from you too.
Man, so obviously, you know, the listeners, you know, they're gonna listen to this, and you know, no doubt, you know, they're gonna be like, whoa. Like the first time when we talked, and I was like, holy smokes. And, you know, we was just kind of doing a little warm up before this interview. And I feel like getting a little Barry White up in here. You know, I found that beat just for you, man. So do you want to tell the audience a little bit about you, and so they know what we're talking about?
My pleasure. As you say, I'm from Orlando, Florida. Retired from the military, from the Air Force 6 years ago. I did 24 years within uniform, and saw your name on many emails going across the airwaves through the years, and we finally culminated back in 2013 over in Afghanistan. And we've been friends and been brothers ever since. And it's been a journey. But that is my case in a nutshell.
Man, I love it, man. And I know I remember many conversations in the middle of the road. You know, and you know, I don't know if you know, Vegas looks just like damn Afghanistan. Just take everything away. It literally is identical. And it's probably why I settled for home here, man. But you know, you said a few things. You know, one, you know, you're relaxing, you're residing down there in Florida. Is it cold down there? I've never been in Orlando at this time of the year.
Well, I guess it depends on a definition of cold. I'm born and raised here, and whenever you say 60 degrees, 68 degrees, you know, we walk around in mucklucks, parkas, and overcoats at 68 degrees. So. But to answer your question, we'll be in like the mid-70s on today.
Oh man, I'm gonna tell you what, it's cold here. You know, the desert gets really cold in the winter. You might see jokes, and it may be like that in Florida. I don't know, you know, but they'll tell you that we have all four seasons in one day in the wintertime here, because it's literally winter, spring, fall, and then right back to, you know, and it's well, actually, let me see. Winter, spring, summer, and then fall towards the evening, and then recycle. So let me get my my facts straight before someone's like, "Hey, dummy, it don't go winter, summer, fall, spring," or maybe it does. I don't know.
Yeah.
But man, it is really my honor to reconnect. Well, we never disconnected, but I'm appreciative.
No, we haven't.
So you did 24 years.
24.
24,
yeah,
man.
Did 24, and it's been like I said, it's been a journey, and the best time that I've had, one of the best times I've had, was over in Afghanistan. Just the opportunity to serve, and another extent was up in Dover, Delaware, the Port Mortuary. That was another highlight of my career. So just the opportunity to see both sides of the spectrum in that regard has also been just a blessing in all forms.
Well, you know, and you're a man of God.
Yes, sir.
And you know, my PTSD is from when I did mortuary affairs in Iraq. And several other things. You know, we even had, you know, the you know, we had some of those ramp ceremonies that we went to when we was downrange together when we met. And you know, are you willing to talk about any of that? I mean, did that impact you as a man or as a veteran, or because I'll share my story, and you can always say you first, Kevin. But this is about you and Brotherhood and some of the things that stand out about why we connected, just genuinely, honestly, between. I think it's just respect over the airwaves, and holy smokes, I get to meet you. And it's like, oh, it's the real deal. It's not just what you read.
Exactly. Exactly.
But how did you feel necessarily about, that duty over there? It's an honorable thing, but I don't think people who've never done it, it's one of those things like, oh, I can imagine what it's like. But when you're there, it's different.
Takes on a different perspective, and you there firsthand. You see it as it all unfolds. To see the accomplishment that we made. It wasn't all doom and gloom. And just to see the camaraderie of every branch of service, everybody working together, no matter what uniform you represent, whether it's Navy, Army, Marine, over there, everybody's on one accord. Everybody's on the same page. We're there to make a mission successful. The brotherhood, the camaraderie was unlike I've ever seen in any situation ever that I served. And within my 24 years, I can actually say that. I know we all have the services have their own friendly rivalries, but I can attest that over there and many places that's just totally remote, we all band together. And it don't matter what uniform, as far as what branch of service that you represented, this just does not matter. And that was just a phenomenal thing to see. With that, we all banded together when tragedy struck. And the bad guys, what we'll say for lack of a better term, don't really care about what branch of service that you represent. Nope. We all the same. And we are there to accomplish the same mission. So their objective is against us in totality. But we band together as brothers and sisters, and man, that was just a beautiful sight to see, in which I'm able to, and I'm sure you as well, have formed relationships and friendships with members across every spectrum of the military, every last one. So that was a beautiful thing to see. As far as the PTSD, well, like you, it has triggered. Well, it's something to actually see once you find yourself in a position to talk to someone now, and to find that things, negative things have transpired and may have injured them or may have mortally wounded that individual after just speaking with them a short span before their injury, is something that you just take life into a different total perspective.
Right.
Once you get back home and once you surround yourself with your loved ones, we take life more appreciative, if you will, KJ. I see it unfold every day, to where even if I'm driving down the street, Doc, you got somebody that's in a hurry. You got somebody who feels slighted when you safely transition from one lane to the other. Somebody may get offended. And this thing called road rage that I see, bruh, it ain't worth it. It's just not worth it. I don't even look over into the other cars anymore. I just don't. I just keep forward, because life is just too fragile. And right. Even from the outskirts of where we were, where we served together, we can attest life is fragile, but life is also precious. So I guess my point is we take it and we recategorize what's important in our own lives based on our experiences over there across the water. And yes, that is my testament as far as that's concerned. But no, I don't have any problem talking about it. Not one bit at all.
And I appreciate that. I think that, like for me, it's really weird. I wrote a few of these, PTSD in me, scripts. I had to write it down because I wanted my thoughts to be clear. And it was funny because, I'd come to a realization that, what heals me is also what harms me, when it comes to managing my PTSD.
That's good.
For instance, like, I'm retired, I got a nice little living, I got my VA. I don't need to do this platform. But I chose to because I felt I had an obligation to give a voice, especially to those who we say we support that are veterans, right? And I'm not talking about, for me, I have never had a murderer that I'm aware of or a pedophile or anything like that. But, we never know who we're going out and helping in our community. And usually we go out blindly. And let's say if I go feed the homeless, I don't know the history of folks, but I do know I have a heart that wants to help based on what I saw. Like you said, life is fragile, right? And a lot of us sign up to be those heroes to people. And like when you talked about the road rage, people don't always necessarily see it the way that you see it or they see it, right? I mean, it's usually not just a two-way street. It's like a roundabout, And,
that's true.
And, so for me, it's one of those things where you balance how much do I expose myself to more criticism or, the closed-mindedness, like you said, someone you like, I don't got time for all that, but when you share your perspective, it as always, as always, it has always been motivating and inspiring to know that I think whether if I'm 1 or 2 degrees off, I'm still moving and doing something good that, you as a man who was on my board of directors, who's a friend who inspired me when we were in combat, who gave me perspective to look at things a little differently or, hey, think about it like this. It helps to have validation to know that I'm going the right direction. And I've learned that with this, I'm not going to please everybody. And that's not what I came to do. I came to share a story. It's perspective. You can agree with it. You can disagree with it. You can provide feedback. Most don't. And we just move on with life. And, for me, my PTSD, it just like you, it's like, I believe in service and helping. And I think one thing about me, I never stand down. I don't stand down and I don't fear.
Exactly.
But keep it honest. And I think you'll find, especially as a faith-based man, most people don't want to keep it honest when it requires a little self-awareness and reflection.
Exactly. People don't. It's kind of like when you're at a restaurant and you have to know your limitations, and pleasing people, no matter how much you give, it'll never be enough. So to make that your priority can really be tiring and weighing yourself out, to the extent to where as you give of yourself and as you expend of your resources, your very energies and stuff, well, what happens at the end of the day? Again, the restaurant methodology that I'm looking at as far as a waiter or waitress, they bring by a pitcher to continuously fill your glass when you're low, of your tea, your water, your soda, whatever. That pitcher has a source to go back to get refilling, whether it's another bottle, whether it's a fountain, whatever. That pitcher has a source. But not everyone has a particular source that they can go to, but they have to understand, where do you go to? Where does KJ go after he's expended and given all that he has to give? Where does KJ go to get revived? Where does KJ go to get refilling and to get that encouragement? It's again, life it categorized. You have to understand the perspective in which you are meant to walk in. But what's most important in this thing called life, it is fragile, it is delicate, is precious, and no matter how long you live back, it's short.
If I answered your question, brother, I go to a very dark place sometimes, and I don't want to come back out. But when I got brothers like you, and I don't know if you can hear me kind of getting choked up, it's those little miracles of sometimes we're in those spaces, and out of nowhere someone reaches out and says, "Hey, where are you at with your VA?" you know? It breaks my heart that I think that way, but my purpose, I feel like that heals me, is being that fighter that you met, that you saw through those email channels, knowing that I'm going out into a world of opinion, nearsightedness, shallowness, and being willing to pull the arrows out, knowing that one day if they really pay attention and listen and become open-minded, they'll understand the lessons a lot of us paid, or what drives us to come to the conclusions that we come to. But man, hold up. I need you to sing some Barry White or something for me, man, to get me out. That was a big pill to swallow, man. People who really know me know that I bruise like a peach. I may be a big guy, and most of you, I think I told you this in Afghanistan. They're like, man, KJ lives in the gym, but that's my coping mechanism to my PTSD. So
there you go.
The size is a second order effect, but
there you go.
Many of us become callous to protect our hearts.
Right.
And if you're not as spiritually strong as, maybe I'm not as you are, which, I need to do better. Our faith, I don't know. I think that's a huge thing that through life has always been questionable. But so, I ran across real quick, a post of yours, right? And it says, I'm part of the 50. The Golden Jubilee. What is that? The Golden Jubilee. And there's a beautiful picture of you and your family. Are you allowed to talk about that?
Oh yeah, of course. In my denomination, my faith denomination, what that did was we came across a milestone in the department in which I operated in my church. It's called the adjutant, and the adjutant in the Latin term means helper. It means assistant. If you think about it, back in the they don't use this term anymore, but back in our early careers, the base commander or the wing commander would have usually it's the general would have an aide de camp. Aide de camp is the same as an assistant. It's like an adjutant. That's the individual that you go to. That individual will go out and make sure that the leader is served properly, that the certain protocols are met. And what they do is they are the spokesperson for that leader. And I operate in that same function within my Reformation, the Church of God in Christ, as an adjutant, in which I've been serving in that capacity since 1989. So that is what that was, the position in which that particular department, that auxiliary, has been in our church, has been 50 years.
Man.
Of that 50, I've served since 1989, which is just, a couple years ago. So anyway.
No, that's... brother, that's awesome, man.
Yeah. So, and, KJ, as we serve, we focus back on that word serve. We serve, and as we serve, we represent members who we determine as our families. We went over with our families in mind.
Mm-hmm.
We went over to bring service to our country, to this nation. And with that, I think we both did a pretty good job to bring a sense of dignity, decorum, and again, we united and brought connected with a lot of comrades from different branches, and I think we did a pretty good job. So I salute you in your service as well as what you're doing now to bring an awareness to this thing called PTSD that I'm sure many of us are dealing with at various levels, to the extent that we too may go into a dark place. We too may go off onto a ledge. We too may go somewhere and curl up in a ball, if you will. 4th of July is a time which I have to turn up the television and I have to turn up whatever sound is in my home because of the firecracker sounds so much like what you and I experienced over there. Yeah. I can't open up a can of biscuits because of the anticipation of the sound in which it would trigger me to go back to a place that, we've been in more than, and it didn't happen to us one time over there, as you can attest. There were days and months that we were going through this battle over there, which we were sent over there for.
Right.
But there are things that we just, that you hit on. You have a coping. Your coping is the gym. My coping is taking a walk. My coping may be even getting up in the wee hours of the night and just go for a drive because of the fact I just have to get to a place where I can free my mind. Yeah. And if that's not the case, then I cope with a Bible. I'll go and pray. I'll go and meditate, and I just lay out on the floor and just call on the name of Jesus, just for peace. Read the Psalms 23, Psalms 27 for peace, Psalms 1. And those are some of the mechanisms that I use just to be able to cope because, brother, we just want to get from one moment to the next. We want to get from one step to the next step. We want to get from one day to another day. And by the grace of God, here we are again, brother. We made it to yet another day.
Through 2020. Through 2020. Something I would never imagine. But, you know, when you talked about getting through another day, we probably, no, not probably, we do, because of what you just told me. There's, a saying called suffering in silence. And we probably both do. My place of solace is usually I turn off the lights, I take a shower, and that's probably where, I do my most weeping when I'm feeling, whether it's I feel sorry for myself or like I don't want to be here. But, I think there's a calling for us too. I know it exists in you because you're a spiritual man. You're not in the church as long as you are about you. About it's others. And I think, when you come up in the profession of arms, we want to be heroes too, to our families and to others. And our calling is to help. And, that is my other piece of the coping is, I know what I've been through and I know what I've gone through. And I know why I fought for my people as a chief. And I know why I fight for people on this platform. Because I'm not cruel. I won't, endorse. There's certain one-way things that I won't endorse. I just can't. You know what I mean? Yeah, human trafficking. If you're a pedophile or a rapist, none of those people are guests.
Exactly.
But if someone makes a mistake, like you probably saw or heard that I did the Sergeant Lovely interview, and it was an astounding like 95% plus positivity based on the feedback I got, and it's funny because people will go into it with their own lenses and their own biases, and they will just already come to a conclusion. And I'm like, well, I was part of the reason why she was put out. And that's not true. I mean, people, they're responsible for their own actions. They're the reasons why they are where they are, right? But it blew my mind at the amount of like coming with an open mind. It's about just giving some perspective on some stuff. You can like it, you can leave it, but I can't sit back and wonder if someone years later has not managed to move on. And I think, many of us as leaders have made a ton of mistakes that didn't make it on social media. We've said some stupid stuff probably in our younger days. It's not on social media. And they're all looked at as heroes because their stuff isn't out there. But I think leaders know mistakes are made. You coming from a faith angle, how do you manage that? I mean, do you ever go through not just your spiritual and faith, but you as a guy with PTSD who has a desire to help? I can't imagine you would be one who wants to know that someone's suffering out there and not provide any opportunity within your power to help remedy that. At the end of the day, it's to each one of us. But remember how I said, I can be in a dark place and out of nowhere I get a message from you saying, hey, where are you at with this? And it pulls me out immediately. How do you navigate through that? Or do you have thoughts, advice, because I'm curious.
One of the things that I've done, and it comes with this thing in life called experience. I too have experienced some losses, some heavy losses. And some of the things that I've lost were not all to my doing, but some of the things of which I've done may have contributed to those losses. Now, it was not all their fault, but I can say that I got the brunt end of the blame. And with that, there were times where those who I call friends, those who I've called brothers, were nowhere to be found. As a matter of fact, they were across the street, if you will, metaphorically, they were across the street, and they were the ones that was helping to just assassinate my character and drag my name. So my point in that saying is, when I needed a word, just something good, just tell me something good. Even if the outcome is looking really bad, just tell me that it's going to be okay. Just give me something.
Right. Yeah.
And
nothing hurt.
I nothing. I didn't get that. And even in scripture, when Israel came back from Ziklag, King David, along with the men who he served with, found that the city was on fire. The women, the children, livestock were taken. They wanted to kill the leader. They wanted to kill King David. But the Bible says that King David had to encourage himself in the Lord. And once he got to that place, which was not instant, it was not overnight, but it took David to go through some things to finally get to that place where he had to depend on his true source. And from then on, they were able to go back, pursue, and get back their families, the livestock, and take the land in which the ones, Ziklag, they conquered that. Excuse me. So with that being said, now to the natural sense, the temporal sense, I place myself in a place of empathy. In my time in service, I was not one to be so quick to write someone up. I hate paperwork. I hated it. We have these young individuals who made mistakes, and hey, we be honest, we too have made mistakes.
Yeah.
And which we had someone to come and advocate for us. Now, we did our part and took our punishment as we should, and we learned from those mistakes. So looking at these scenarios and stuff, when people are in a position of trial and error, well, I try to be open-minded, as you say. I approach it in an open-minded sense. I put myself in their shoes, and I try to do it that I can help them. Now, short of being a crime, short of anything outside, murder, as you say, rapists and human trafficking. Okay, now that's crime. Those are felonies in which you're gonna have to take account for. And no, it's not your fault that I went out and I did something that I shouldn't have done. That's not for you to blame. At the end of the day, I'm responsible for what I do. So, in essence, I step out. I approach these matters in a sense of empathy to try to understand the position in which that person is in at that time, to try to help them out of the hole that they're in. Hopefully, they're shaking off the dust, brush off their shoulders, square them up, and stand them back up, reestablish their foundation, set them on a rock, and then walk their end in the straight and narrow way. So, again, I try to approach it. I approach it in the spirit of being humble, being empathetic, listening. Or you said open-minded. We got to listen. We don't listen to each other as a society as much as we used to at one time. We've gotten away from a lot of the old tenets in which we were raised coming up as children of our day. We've gotten away from those basic foundations, those tenets, which we were once subjected to. Since not that they've gone away, but they're just, I guess, slowly fading away. They're being ignored. I'll say it's not that they're gone; they're still there, but we just have to acknowledge those tenets again of those old days in which we came up in. They still work. And our society would be a lot better off if we just listen. If we just listen and love one another and embrace one another, our differences, our whatever, embrace it. And let's just, people don't want to agree to disagree. They don't want to embrace that. You like apple pie, I might like cherry pie. But hey, together they sweet. They taste good with my milk as well as they taste good with your milk, and it's good. And maybe I can persuade you to taste my cherry pie, and we can have a big old nice cobbler, But we just have to get to the point to where we listen, and we have to have empathy, and we got to have love for one another, because everybody needs somebody.
Yeah, I had when I was having a discussion with someone, I had said, man, I was like, you're so closed-minded. I said, you know what that made me think of? And they were like, what? And I said, the person when civil rights movement was brought up, they just were so closed-minded that there's no way we could do that. I was like, what makes you any different today than the closed-minded person back then who wasn't open-minded enough to be like, but they don't see it that way, and
no, they don't.
And it blows my mind because then I read something else, like social media has a lot of goodness and way more badness. But it's I read it. It's like someone's mad at you for something that they did to you. And I'm like, that's amazing. It's because I'm like, yeah, you see it all the time. And I think that impacts those tenets that me and you grew up where, access to information was based on if I wanted to hear a leader, I better went to, the town square or picked up a newspaper and read it. And and now I could fall within this category, which is not my intent, but I'm saying depending on the lens of someone, like when I was I have this group called Leaderish. And I said, because I don't think there's any leadership no more. I said, I think everything is leaderish because one leader can say left, the other one can say right, and both are potentially right. And then you have the masses that are confused and they're battling. There's contention between the two based on what their history is, what their lenses are, the way they were brought up, And that's not that's not leading. That's division.
Exactly.
You know,
Exactly.
and so when I did this, I do the Sergeant Lovely, I will come on and be vulnerable. You know what I mean? Like I will acknowledge how much you mean to me, regardless whether we talk once a week, once a month, once a year. I know you're there, and
Right.
and I've never lost your. Well, okay, so I coined something. Rodney's leadership market value has always been high. The stock has never dropped. You know, and I tell people that I used to tell the chiefs, I'm like, we're actually being counterproductive when airmen can go to a social media site, ask a chief, and you see chiefs thrashing on each other, whether it's politics or this or this or this or this, and we're confusing them. You know, I was like, that's why I didn't appreciate it. It was like, you know, and I used to say it all the time. I'd be like, I don't like it when Chief Master in the Air Force gets on social media and answers my airman's question. What should have been said is like, who's your chief?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
But they don't. And I don't think their intent is malicious in nature, but it sure in the hell isn't helping at the lowest level of the organization.
Exactly.
You know, and so we live in weird times. And I think, you know, that a lot of us are just doing our best, but sometimes our best isn't good enough. But me and you just said it, me and you are here. So I don't, well, shoot, there's so much growth to this. What would you say? So I'm going to tell you honestly, I miss the most, and I can literally see you now. 'Cause one, you're taller than me. Your voice is much more commanding than mine. And I don't know if you remember us standing on the road,
think about
talking.
It all the time. I think about it all the time, brother. I think about it all the time, man.
And I don't know if you remember how many sunflower seeds I was spitting out in the middle.
I remember all the time, man, because I was driving that big old that beat up Hummer.
Yeah.
And I didn't want you to think I was gonna hit you with that big old massive piece of metal, man. But yeah, man, I think about that all the time. And I think that's when we really came to a sense of it was just you and I. We had people around us all the time. We had subordinates coming up on us. We had superiors who would pass us by. But that moment, that was just me and you. And we had a heart to heart. And that was the few times in which we've had that it was just Rodney and KJ were able to have a conversation. Two senior NCOs having a conversation. And that was just one of those times in which, you know, whether you know it or not, I needed it, and I needed clarity, and maybe it was something that I was missing on a matter at that point in time, and it just evolved into a whole state of awareness on many levels at many fronts, personally and professionally, for both of us. I think that helped us along the way.
You would call that divine intervention, as I would.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
You know, I was just trying to not get my ass chewed by an angry command sergeant major who didn't have his grits that morning.
You had one on your end, and I had one right next to me on my end, man. So, boy, they were not playing over there, man. Yes, sir.
You know, I don't know if you know, I went back. So, you know, when I was there, I got orders. So I went back to Travis, then I went to Langley, and then I was back in Afghanistan again, but over on the Air Force side, just to get just to get Air Force leveled and go back to Langley and go to McCord. And I don't know how I made chief, but I did. And
hey, man, you did divine intervention.
I think there was either you know, what do they say, morale, the beatings will continue until morale improves or something like that. You know, and it was funny because I wanted out. You know, we talked about that. I was like, man, bro, I want out. You know what I mean? I'm retiring, and and so, you know, I think that I had a purpose. You know, we don't think about it at that time. And I think, you know, one of the things that the younger brothers and sisters who are continuing to serve, You know, and a lot of folks really, you know, unless they know me, they don't understand me. You know, they don't know that I've always
Yeah.
fought for the underdog, and I fight
Yeah.
hard, and I'll fight dirty if I need to.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and that's for everybody, right? I mean, it doesn't matter
Yeah.
regardless of, I don't care what your color is, what your gender
No, you don't.
is.
No.
I
No.
don't give two
No. No.
shits.
None of that matters. That
Now,
don't matter. That don't
no,
matter.
what's right is right. What's
That
wrong
don't
is
matter.
wrong. And
Exactly.
and here we are. I'm still fighting. I guess
Yeah, man.
I'm still fighting, but now
Oh yeah.
I got a partner in crime, right? But I remember
Oh yeah.
this is a story you told me, and then I'm hoping you'll elaborate a little bit on it. And I remember you told me this.
All right.
You're like, bruh, every time there's an invocation or every time there's a graduation, who are they calling because of the voice?
Yeah. Yeah, they call on me.
You know?
They do. Yeah, they do.
So how do you navigate through that? Like what would you tell like folks out there, you know, who don't necessarily understand they have a gift? I think your voice is a gift. It's a blessing.
Well,
yeah, how did you do
go
it?
ahead.
Or
I'm listening.
no, how would you know what would you say to them? Or you know, you have many more talents, but you have a voice that is magnificent. But I know you had to get tired of it sometimes, or maybe you didn't, or you didn't appreciate it. And there's folks out there who probably have talents and value that, or maybe went through something you went through.
When an NBA player goes out in public, Shaquille O'Neal is always in my neighborhood when he comes through quite often. And when they see him out at the neighborhood Walmart or whatever, Shaquille O'Neal expects to be approached. Michael Jordan expects to be approached. A 7-foot human being expects to be acknowledged for the fact that he's tall. So he or she would anticipate, how tall are you? Can I take a photo of you? You're the tallest person I've ever seen. There are attributes in which people have that are, I guess you could say, magnified, in which people tend to draw to, and they're just enamored by the fact that they're witnessing or that they see that particular attribute for the first time ever, or what have you. It's just something that draws people to that. As you said, yeah, I'm 6'2", but I'm not big, and I'm a skinny dude. And people, my voice has pretty much changed since I believe I was talking a little bit deep at the age of 5 years old. 5 years old, I recall being babysat, and that was one thing that started changing at that point in time. I can also remember someone beating on my door, and this is when I was 11 years old, and I rang out, "Who is it?" And the individual eventually just hurried off because I guess he thought it was an older man in the house, what have you. I can recall my mother's friends. I'm almost certain they knew that she was at work, but they were called to ask if she was there. And this is before we had caller ID and all that other mechanisms that we have now. We had the house phone. There was no cell phones. So when they called, and I was just assuming that they would just wanted just to listen in and see how I'm sounding or what have you. So that was all good. And that was all great. But my voice has come also. This was the bad thing with my voice. There was a young lady who I just was, well, actually, it was two of them, I can tell you. One I know was my soulmate, but man, I was in love with these girls, man. And when I called their homes one day on both ends, their daddies answered the phone. And when their daddies answered the phone, Man, when the dads answered the phone, I was done. And even though I told him that I was 16, it was all for naught, man. It was, no, he said, well, he could be 16, but he sounds too old. And so I lost two girls. I lost two girlfriends, man. My boys got me in trouble 2 times.
Oh, my gosh.
With 2 people's daddies, man.
You had to practice like the, hi.
Oh,
hi.
Man.
Like,
well, man, I lost 2. I lost that on 2. Lost that on a few of them. So, but no, it's been like I said, I embrace it. I understand that it's unique. It's not the most eloquent and most polished, but hey, it's what I got. I use it to the best of my ability, and I've been often asked in times since I was first stationed in my career of doing prayers at various events for the base. And what most people don't know, I never heard of the Order of the Sword ceremony. None of us did. We were in basic training, and I was one of 8 people that was nominated to sing before a 4-star general. And at that time, that was the great Robert Oakes. He went on to serve in Europe, and I was afforded as a airman basic in basic training to sing the Star Spangled Banner in front of General Robert C. Oakes, and that was my 5th, 6th week in basic training. No, my 4th week in basic training.
Wow.
And so they chose me, and I, was in the soprano section of that quartet. But and that was a joke. But nonetheless, yeah, man, it's been a blessing. I've embraced the fact that people would feel so comfortable asking me to render an invocation. I just thought that was that was great for me.
Bruh, I'm gonna tell you what, man. I was almost half tempted to be like, we need to do an impromptu Rodney Bonner introducing the KJ while I record it. I did that to another guy who kind of I had my own version of my introduction, and and it was funny. I don't know if you had ever heard it, and hold on, I'm trying to get to it. And they were like, because there was a DJ called DJ Slow Jammin' James, and he was the pioneer of old school like love music, and yeah, it was I was like, why can't I be KJ Slow Jammin' James?
Yeah, man.
And so here's a little sample for you, right? Can you hear it?
Yeah, I can hear it a little bit. Yeah.
All right, here. I want you to.
Yeah, I hear it. I hear it.
All right, I want you to rate this. What's up, people? It's your boy KJ Slow Jammin' James, and you're tuning in to another Kicking It with KJ production coming live from KJ Studios. So sit back, relax, open your mind, and whether you like it, love it, or hate it, when you kick it with KJ, you get 100% authenticity. So let's go. I think you could do a much better job.
I like it, man. I like it. I love it. I love it, man. And it's got that you're bringing issues to the table, but you started off, man, real nice. It got that, back in the day, and most young people would probably be asleep, but at the 10 o'clock hour at nighttime on various urban different stations, you would have this segment called the Quiet Storm, in which they would play the various love songs and those particular days they don't pretty much have. I don't know of too many of them that have them now. Could be wrong, but it just takes me back to that nostalgic period of time, man. But your introduction is great, man. It's flowing. But hey, man, you got my support on whatever that I can do, man. So if that's Craig Morgan, the country music singer, he came just about 2 months after you left. He and his band came over. Members of the TV show Wild and Out, they came by. And the one actor from Think Like a Man, he came, and they stopped by shop. They performed. But anyway, Craig Morgan had me to redo his voicemail. And that was, yeah, man. It was an honor to do that. So I guess with me, anytime I'm asked, I do feel honored just to have that opportunity. As I'm honored just to sit here and talk to you on this interview. It's just honorable just to be even thought about. So
the honor's
by all
mine.
means, my friend.
Bro, the honor is mine. You are an amazing human, a friend, a brother in arms. You have always, I'd like to say it's mutual, but I'm going to just be, come from a humble angle. I feel like you have always looked out for me, more than I have you necessarily, because you always reached out to me. And I think there were many times we were supposed to connect, and life is what it is. And you might have been like, "Nah, dog, you were supposed to reach out to me." And
never. Matter of fact, like I said, I wanted so badly to be at your retirement ceremony, and this COVID-19, I'm grateful that those of us who are safe, I'm prayerful that we all remain safe. We'll get through this pandemic sooner, more sooner than later, I would hope, and that's my faith, coming alive, is the fact that we're going to get through this, and we'll be able to get back to the place where we can all reunite and we can all come together again. But this pandemic has really robbed us of many opportunities that we, I guess, take for granted in days past, that I think we're going to have a different perspective from going forward. I really do. And I think the reunions will be a lot sweeter. I think the reunions will be a lot more appreciated. And I think that we'll be even more happier just to be able to shake hands, to hug one another's neck, to sit down at a table and share a plate of food and laugh and talk about good things, things in the past, good, bad, and different, but it's just about fellowship. And I think that, again, this pandemic, which we will get through, won't be easy. Many of us have already suffered losses of loved ones and friends on various magnitudes, but nonetheless, we'll get through this, and we'll be able to have that fellowship once again. But this pandemic has really robbed us of many times, many happy days, and just many joyous occasions. We've just been intermittently interrupted right now, but we're going to get through this. We'll get past this, and we'll be able to march on and press on in life as we know, and we do it with the best we can, man.
Well, I think that in 2030, me and you are going to do a face-to-face interview, and we're going to go back and see what has changed in the last 10 years. And and me and you are both going to laugh and be like, Or wheelchairs. No, I'm just messing. I'm messing because how broke I am. just because how broke I am. You'd be like, bro, I don't know.
Hey.
You know, like,
Hey.
man. I'll tell.
Yeah, we'll both get there.
Man, I'll tell you
We'll
what.
be there.
So the audience, I mean, we've been blessed, right, just by this talk. But if there was any last words of inspiration that you would share, whether it's about warrior leadership, a buddy of mine, JV Spiso, he's a retired sergeant major. He wrote this book, and he was one of the guys that got the interview. Or I interviewed Larry McCullen the other day, and he talked about it really his thing was love. He leads with love, and that's kind of what drove everything. Buddy of mine, Terrell, I just interviewed, same thing. Like, and I feel like that's the theme amongst all of us. It's really weird, but most of the folks that have, that I have gravitated towards, or they've gravitated towards me, regardless of the delivery, they know it's catalyzed by love. What last words of inspiration would you leave for folks before we wrap up this interview?
Well, again, thank you for the opportunity to allow me to be a part of this, part of your interview. Again, I am honored and just elated just to be able to fellowship with you again. You're doing a magnanimous job, and I just encourage you to keep doing what you're doing, brother. As far as anyone that's listening, that's under the sound of my voice, I would say, just to continue doing the best you can. And as those of you who now know that I am a man of God, I will say that always to put your trust in God and hold on to his unchanging hand, even in these times of uncertainty. It might be dark, it might be bleak at times in our lives now, but there's a brighter day coming ahead. So keep looking up, keep looking to the hills, keep looking upward. That's where our help comes from. And better days are yet ahead. So I just want to encourage you all that whatever you do, take it day by day, take it step by step, and moment by moment. But continue just to stay encouraged. If you have a need, if you have a deficiency, my plea is that you reach out to somebody. Reach out to KJ. Reach out to your family, loved ones. We are here to listen, if anything, just to hear you out and to give you whatever resources we can. But please don't think that you're in this fight all by yourself. We all are in this together.
Man. My boy Rodney Barner, vet, retired,
Kevin James,
inspirational man. I think those are words to live by. Super grateful for you, and I hope they are as well, because time is money. But we put this gold out there, right? And we hope people will follow it. Rodney, it's been my honor, honestly, to not only interview you, but to call you a friend, for you always looking out for me, and to continue being that selfless leader. I hope people will hear your words and understand that you're not alone. Don't suffer in silence. And yeah, from KJ Studios, everybody, with love and respect, I hope you're well. Take care. Bye.